question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
Hello and welcome to the Brothers Random Show. My name is Travis.
And I'm Michael.
And we are two ordinary brothers discussing extraordinary ideas and some random shit. Michael, why are we here?
Today we are discussing the George Miller film. Just came out, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Whatever you have to do. However long it takes. Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
The post-apocalyptical world that's been depicted by George Miller for years now. What a great, like, just long time of watching these shows. Yeah, it's just how cool.
It's decades long. He's had it's been a decades long love affair with this world that he created since 1979.
79.
The first Mad Max movie came out in 1979, and it starred Mel Gibson. This film stars Chris Hemsworth and Anna Taylor-Joy. It is a prequel to the Fury Road, the Mad Max Fury Road that came out in 2015. So it's been damn near 10 years since they did Fury Road. So but we will be doing spoilers at the end of this episode. So right now our initial thoughts are, I liked it. Is it as good as Fury Road? I don't think so. I really was into Fury Road when it first came out. So,
and my wife liked it more now, and I think I know why, but because Fury Road was her first introduction into the Mad Max world. So she was just kind of like, what the crap? Like, what is this? And it was just kind of, I think it was just a shock to her. It was just, this is so weird. What is this thing that I'm watching here? We grew up on, I think Thunderdome was probably the one that I remember watching the most.
That would have, Thunderdome, almost the one that killed the whole thing, because it wasn't well received.
Yeah, and I remember hearing this a lot, that the song, the Tina Turner song, made it bigger than the movie did.
The movie did, yeah. So the movie came out in 85, and that was kind of what killed it. And then George Miller kept working to, there were lots of false starts with Mad Max Fury Road, like a lot,
really
years and years and years trying to, because at one point Mel Gibson was coming back, and then Mel Gibson had all of his controversy, and we don't need to get into that. But I think the movie would have been elevated had he come back. I like Tom Hardy a lot, but so, and Tom Hardy's building a reputation as being difficult to work with too. So who knows if he'll come back. Anyway, so brilliant actors tend to be, I guess, prima donnas. So, and I like Mel Gibson and Tom Hardy as actors. So, but for this movie, without getting into any spoilers, so this is a prequel to Fury Road. It's about the character Furiosa. It's about the character, and it's about her being at a green place and her being taken away from that green place and then spending her entire life trying to get back to it. It's getting a lot of flack for being a little too woke. Everybody's talking about the girl boss. I do not believe that this is a girl boss scenario. Because if you compare her in this movie to let's say to the Marvels or to Rey from the Star Wars films, those characters are already awesome. They don't become awesome. In this, she becomes awesome, and she gets her ass handed to her throughout. And that's the story. So we don't like, what do you call it? What
she
would we call
she
it?
wasn't a Mary Sue. She wasn't a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
She had to figure things out. She would get her butt kicked if she wasn't careful. She had to kind of duck and swoon and dive
Yeah.
to be able to figure out what she was able to do.
The best way to depict what a Mary Sue is in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Han Solo's own ship, they've just gotten back on the Millennium Falcon, right? And she knows more about the ship than Han Solo, who's been driving that ship for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she bypasses something, she says, and that's what fixes it. And him and Chewie kind of look at each other, and it's played for laughs, but it's like, how would she know? She just got on the ship. So that's already putting a bunch on her that she's already awesome and she doesn't need to grow as a character. And that's a huge problem with today's Hollywood. And this movie doesn't do that. She's not awesome in the beginning. She's a child in the beginning. In fact, my biggest complaint probably about this movie, outside of the CGI, is probably the length. It's a very, very long movie. It's 2.5 hours long. Mm-hmm. So, and it didn't need to be. They could have cut a good 40 minutes out of this movie, and it still would have been. It probably would have been more exciting, actually. Because if
they kind of just moved it along a little bit quicker. Yeah.
If you compare it to the previous film, Fury Road, it's got slow moments, and slow moments are fine, but that's what made Fury Road like a very unique movie, is that it is just fast. It is going. It is
going. Yeah.
And that is what's so exciting about it. And speaking along those lines, the editing got best editing when it came out, and his wife is the editor, and she co-edited this one. She's got a co-credit of some kind. I don't know what that means. It felt like it was a different movie. And it's just a little too slow. And it might be old age. George Miller's in his 80s at this point, I believe. So, and he was he's got a very fascinating history. He was a doctor doing residency when he decided to make the first Mad Max, and he was just saving up all of his money. And,
really?
I mean, it's rough watching those earlier films because they're not, you can tell that the ambition is there, but they're just not as exciting. Road Warrior is actually probably the closest to it, which is the second Mad Max movie. It's the closest to the stuff that we got now. It's very like go, go, go. Anyway. Yeah. So that's my take on it.
So yeah, I liked how she was depicted. I didn't really see any woke in it, which was great. I was afraid that it was going to be just jam packed.
Well, they've admitted the previous one was like this feminist allegory, and it's fine if it needs to be a feminist allegory. And this one, you could probably argue, is a bit of a feminist allegory as well, but it's a kind of a covert, and it's not overt. And audiences are smart. So if you let them figure that kind of shit out, then they're more likely to respect the film. But if you're just like, oh, she's going to take this, like Anya Taylor-Joy is 120 pounds, maybe soaking wet. And it's like she can't take on these guys, and she doesn't. She gets her ass handed to her through most of the movie. But she's smart because she uses a bunch of smart things that happen
Yeah.
that kind of like Chris Hemsworth. What do you think that guy weighs? That's like 250 pounds of pure muscle. Like he's like 6'1" or whatever. He's huge. The guy's massive. And it's just he's like hamming it up. He is enjoying the hell out of himself in this movie. He steals every scene he's in. He's got one of the most ridiculous accents I think I've ever heard him use. I mean, because he's Australian, but he's doing like a really, I don't know what kind of accent. It's like a smarmy Australian accent. He's just
I was
smarmy as
there
all
for it.
get out.
I was there for it.
I mean,
I
he
it
steals
was
every scene. Like he's
it was
just, yeah.
it was dumb.
Yeah, he's dumb.
He was dumb, but also he was actually pretty smart, conniving.
Yeah.
And it was
funny.
Get into spoilers. Some of my favorite moments with him. I was just like, it's funny.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's a dark humor kind of movie.
Yeah.
It's very dark humor.
For reals. Yeah.
Because I mean, you'd imagine that's how it would be, in a kind of setting like this. They are wild, these movies, and they're meant to be wild. They're meant to have like this. Because when I was a kid and I saw some of the first Mad Max, and there's like all sorts of crazy shit that happens in those movies. There's like rapes that happen in those movies and stuff like that, and it's kind of grimy and gross. And when I was a kid seeing these, I just thought everybody was crazy. But I realized as I got older that if you were in this kind of situation in a post-apocalyptic world, you would go nuts. You would have your brain would be fried on whatever toxins were in the air. You would be kind of crazy. And that's what everybody's like in these movies, is that everybody's a little crazy. So,
I mean, it's definitely possible.
It's more easy to believe.
It's
more easy to believe now because we've been through COVID about how crazy people can get.
Right.
Especially when they're part of a crowd. I mean, that's just where I fall on it. I'm looking at it going, oh yeah, I could see these people being nuts, just being crazy. So,
yeah. Anyway, yeah, we can get into spoilers.
Yeah. Before we do, two things that just kind of annoyed me about this movie. The length is it's way long, and number two is the practical effects are less. There's not as much practical effects as Fury Road. Fury Road, the stuntmen risked their lives. I don't think they risked their lives in this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to say because it's hard to kind of go, oh, well, there's a lot of fakery in this one. In the other one, you're watching it and people are doing these stunts without the green screen in the back. People are doing these stunts like in real places. And there's just a lot of green screen. You can tell the shots that are in a real place and the shots that are in a studio.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem for me. I mean, I want to look at something and go, wow, they really did this. That's why I like the Mission Impossible movies, because Tom Cruise is always risking his life for entertainment purposes.
I was okay. Like, I mean, I've heard a lot of flack on that. But also, I mean, I didn't expect a lot from this film. I kind of just went into it just ready to strap in for whatever ride it took me on.
Yeah.
And I liked Fury Road, but it wasn't just like one of my all-time favorites or anything like that. We might get some hate for that. A lot of people are saying that's like their favorite show ever. But
it's a really good movie. It's really, really good.
I mean, I was there for it, but it was good to me. Like, to me, it was good, but not like one of my top films or anything.
Did you like
that.
this, the Furiosa, better than Mad Max Fury Road?
Did I like it better? My wife liked it better. I don't know that I would say I liked it better. I would say I liked it the same.
Oh, okay.
To me, I'd say I liked it the same. So
cool. All right, let's get into spoilers. Spoilers now. I guess the biggest spoiler in this would be like how she loses her arm, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a pretty.
I was
cool
there
moment.
for it. I actually I thought. They teased you for a little bit with it, because like
the whole time
because she gets her arm caught outside her window, and Chris Hemsworth,
between the two trucks.
It's a monster truck, so this big old tire just hits her arm and it goes on her arm. So, but the next scene I see her, she still has her arm. You just can see that it messed it up. It messed it up good. Well, that was my thought, was like, oh, that's how she loses her arm. She probably lost it right there. But then you see her and it's not gone.
It's not gone.
But then they strap her up with it.
They chain her up with this arm and leave her for what could be only like a whole day, like leave her for a day. And then they go back to her and she's pretty much cut off her own arm to get out of it. And
well, it leaves it up to your
imagination.
Yeah, because
but the reveal is so great, because he's sitting there pouting, and it's funny. It's kind of funny how he pouts. Like he pouts a lot in this movie. Like, I'm gonna take my ball and go home. Like he's just this big baby, and you kind of laugh at a lot of things that he does. So he goes and sits on the hood of his truck and he pouts as
so the Praetorian Jack, they drag
a new
character, and that's how he dies. It's kind of sad, like how that all goes down. Pretty horrific.
Well, and he's a mentor to her, which is another sign that this is not a woke movie, because they do have a white male be a mentor to her. And that's been what's missing in a lot of these, the Marvels and Madam Web.
Not that they have to be white male, but
just
to have a mentor.
To have a mentor, who's a man. So this is what this movie's getting flack for, is that they saying that, okay, so the beginning of the movie is, there's a 40-minute chase, like not 40 minutes, but it felt like 40 minutes, where her mother's chasing after her to save her because she's been taken from the green place. And it's, it implies that the women, like these are the women that you see at the end of Mad Max Fury Road. They're all older, they're all old, and they're kind of dying out in that movie. They're all younger in this movie. And just a thing to point out, one of those characters is played by Chris Hemsworth's wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how he negotiated her role in it, but she got a role in it. The really good looking one at the beginning that says, I want to go with Furiosa's mother. She's like, no, you stay here. You need to stay here. So that's Chris Hemsworth's wife. She's extremely good looking, and she can't act worth a damn. And anyway, so that's the opener, and the opener is just her mother chasing after her. It has got some good moments, but for the most part, that could have been cut out, and that's how we're reintroduced into this world. She's growing up kind of as this. They were going to have her be a bride, and then she escapes from the bride and becomes like a war boy, right?
Yeah, just kind of I don't think she became a war boy, but she just becomes kind of a grunt within the community.
Within
She's
the
just a
community,
grunt.
and so she's learning. So she starts learning about engines and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Praetorian Jack. So Praetorian in this world is in ancient Rome, they were the protectors of
The emperor.
of the emperor.
And
But
so I guess it's a title for the driver
of the war rig.
Yeah. So
in this world, so what's really interesting is they kind of expand on this world. So there's the Citadel, the Gas Town, and Bullet Farm. There are three communities that trade with each other in this world, and they kind of touch on it in the Mad Max Fury Road, but not a lot. Like they're secondary characters. You never go to these places. Well, we go to these places in this movie. Their trade. So the war rig is how they trade. So they trade with water and food. The Citadel does, and in return they get bullets and gasoline. And so Praetorian Jack, it's like a title of somebody who can drive the war rig all the way to the other communities. And so he takes her under, and there's a bunch of really great moments there. So their first the first action scene
encounter,
real encounter where she's a stowaway.
She's planning on getting away.
She's a stowaway trying to get away.
Motorcycle. She had her stuff all.
That was a great reveal, by the way. So because you don't think that, you think the story is just moving along with this new character, Praetorian Jack, who his getup slightly resembles Mad Max.
Yeah,
like he just kind of like his whole dress
and his persona
is kind of got that. And that might have been intentional, because that might be why Furiosa gives him a bunch of chances in Mad Max Fury Road.
Gives
Yeah.
Mad Max.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of moments where she could have just taken him out, but she kind of decides not to. I don't know. It's a nice little.
The idea that maybe there are good men, and that was kind of the point, is like he was a good man that that didn't want to just kill her.
Kill her. That whole scene is very cool. And then they have this one moment where they're standing on the road together, and he just says, "Look, if you let me, I'll teach you everything I know." And so we have these time jumps. We have this time jump from when she's like 12 or 10, when she's being groomed to become a bride to Immortan Joe, who's the villain from the previous film. And then you have these moments and then a time jump where she's becomes a kind of a grunt to work on the engines. And then you have another time jump when she's becomes a driver. And so it's an interesting way to do the movie. There these time jumps, and there's like an action set piece in almost all of the time jumps. And it's kind of cool. There's some the action in this is like, he's a brilliant action filmmaker. Like, he's just brilliant at making action. It's obvious that many of the action scenes in this were way too dangerous to actually do with real people, which is why we got a lot of CGI. And that's okay. It's not as impressive. If you get action that's impressive with real people, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So CGI is not, and you can usually tell. Your mind or your eye can say, "Oh, that was just kind of that was a fake explosion or whatever." So it's almost too clean for real life, and that's what I was missing from this one, because there was so many incredible moments in Fury Road because they shot them for real. And they had like a stunt guy who had a 20-foot drop in the first one, or in the 2015 one. So, and it didn't kill him. I don't even think he was injured, if I'm remembering correctly. I read the book. There's a book about the making of this, of Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, okay.
It's Blood, Sweat, and Chrome. It's a good book. They interviewed everybody, and it would make for a great documentary series. But because there's a lot of crazy shit happened on that set.
Now they're all filmed in Australia, aren't they?
No, I don't know where this one was filmed. But the last one, it was Australia's wettest year when they decided to film there, and they had grass everywhere.
Oh no.
There was nothing that looked like wasteland. So they had to go to parts of Africa,
Oh really?
obscure African area.
Huh.
So yeah, it's that whole movie is very fascinating. This is a lesser film in my mind.
Mhm.
And I think so, like I said, you could have cut out 30 minutes to this movie, and it probably, I don't know if it would have made the movie better, but it would have made it less of a slog to get through, probably. So there's this idea online that's going around. Why don't we have the male lead and the female lead kiss anymore? Because they
Oh,
imply in this that Praetorian Jack and her have some kind of
a relationship.
a relationship of some kind. Now they
I
don't.
was wondering if they were going for more of like a father-daughter kind of relationship, but
But
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I couldn't really. That's the reason that it was weird, is because I couldn't tell, because there's that moment where she's sleeping and she wakes up and she takes the knife to him, and he just tells her to calm down, and it's a weird moment. I thought there was going to be like a scene there where they make out or something like that, and then they also have the moment next to the spring
Where
where he's stitching up her wound,
yeah.
and that's a little bit intimate. So it's like, I don't know. Is it because Hollywood is done with
They might be trying
heterosexual
to keep yeah,
romance?
they might be trying to keep her like open to be lesbian.
Put a chick in it, make her gay, and I want it lame.
And so if they have her kissing guys
In other movies,
then she won't be lesbian. I don't know if that's where they're going with that.
That's reading a lot into it, because she obviously has affinity for him. And this is the problem. I think Hollywood is way more likely to have a gay kissing scene than a heterosexual kissing scene in their movies now.
I don't know. I mean,
When was the last time you saw?
What was the last time?
Yeah, I mean, really think about it. Action movies that have come out lately. I mean, I don't think there's not one. So the
Did
action
they kiss
movies,
in Fall Guy? I haven't seen Fall Guy.
no, yeah, they do, but I mean, I
Okay.
didn't bother seeing it. It wasn't it didn't do very well at the box office. It's kind of a flop. So, but okay, so here's the thing. Out of the action movies that you and I have seen lately, so there's like the Beekeeper, there's like the John Wick movies. John Wick has a romantic relationship in the very first movie, and doesn't ever have another romantic relationship in any of the others. Beekeeper, he doesn't have a romantic relationship with anybody in that.
Yeah.
And see, maybe they're pushing against the idea. So in the 80s, it was common for them to have met that day, and then they have like a romantic relationship, and
by the end of the
movie,
you don't even realize that this is all happening in one day.
Yeah. So like Speed did this, and they and they're making out when they get off the bus, and so a lot of these movies did this. So maybe this is in a response to that, and they're like going, no, that's not how
really happen.
This doesn't really happen. And I get that, but when you have a lapsing of time, why
Yeah.
not have them have an intimate moment
Mhm.
that is consummated by a kiss of some kind? Like this is kind of going around the internet about this movie. It's all like you said, I think they want her, they wrote this great male character, Praetorian Jack, who's good to her, the only person that's good to her other than her mother. And it's a good relationship. It would have, I don't know if I needed it to happen because I thought it was fine, but at the same time I found myself going, well, were they intimate or weren't they intimate? Because she's kind of got her, so the new kissing in this world is them putting their heads together, like that's the intimate, and that's what they do that
Well,
a lot.
that was meant to be intimate, because if you think about it, that is how they showed affection in her home, at her home. That's how they showed affection.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So
Now,
maybe
now, like brotherly, sisterly, like affection, probably, I don't know, because we didn't see anybody that was obviously like a romantic couple kiss, right? Like that.
yeah.
So we don't really know.
Well, I would argue that it's not, because they have those looks at each other, because he's stitching her up and she's looking at him.
Yeah.
You know, she's got half of her clothes off. That's an intimate moment, you know, and so Hollywood, I think, it has an allergy to heterosexual relationships now.
They're trying, I guess. It might be kind of like case in point of the culture, right? And the culture is that men and women are kind of starting to do their own thing and not really
Be part of
do
each other.
things together, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it used to be that in an action show, it'd be kind of like doing something together, and then like you're falling in love along the way.
Yeah.
That would kind of
Even Conan the Barbarian had a romantic, you know, and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and she was a warrior. She was a warrior.
And Arnold
as well,
is like
right?
the least likely romantic lead ever. Like that guy
Yeah.
has not got a romance in it. So it's put me into this kind of like wondering what's happening. I'm sure there's a market for it, because what was that Sydney Sweeney romantic comedy that was a huge hit this last year?
So dumb.
Was it pretty dumb?
We watched it. Yeah, it's so dumb.
Anyone
but you.
But what it's, if I never saw it, so because romance is not the thing for me. But anyway, so what was it about it that was appealing? Was it just that it was a romantic comedy and that people are like, oh, holy shit, we need to make more romantic comedies because there's a market for it? Or is it just, or did it have something clever to it? Was there anything clever to it?
Sydney Sweeney's boobs were nice throughout the show. You don't really get to see them, but they're nice throughout the whole thing.
Okay, so those are what sold that movie, I guess.
I guess.
Well, that's what brought the male population to it. It was a big hit. It was like $150 million box office draw, and I think it was made for like 13 million or something like that. So it was a big hit. So
Yeah.
So there is a market for that. And that, I'm not saying that I need that in my action movies, because I was fine with it, but there was a discussion on one of the things I follow about this idea that nobody knew what kind of relationship they had. Was it a father-daughter? It was a brother-sister, or was it intimate? They kept implying that it was intimate, but then they never kissed. So nobody knew what Praetorian Jack and Furiosa was. So everybody's
maybe that's part of the point, but it was kind of the same. That was kind of the same thing I felt with her relationship with Mad Max in the Fury Road. Wasn't it? I mean,
That
but I
felt
guess
more
that
like
was a little different because that was like, all in 2 days or 3. It was like 2 days, this all happening within like 2 days.
It was, yeah. And this actually spans years. So you would
Yeah.
imagine that they had, I don't know.
I don't know. But you're not wrong. It does seem like our films are kind of keeping romance out of it. It's like out of the equation, right?
Yeah.
It's just about what needs, whatever the mission is, whatever needs to happen. It's not about having a mission and then finding love along the way to the mission. It's more just about what's the mission and stay on target. Well, I don't think that's a good thing. I think that just kind of goes to where the battle of the sexes is. I don't think it's good.
Yeah, I don't think it's
my
good.
opinion.
It's just a sign of the times, really, I guess.
What were some of your favorite parts with Chris Hemsworth?
Jeez, the guy is got charisma like nobody's business. Like every scene, like I couldn't tell if he was in a fucking comedy or an action movie because he was just hamming it up like it
was great.
It was weird because he's playing this character. It's almost like this character doesn't have any fear, and because he doesn't have any fear, everything's a joke to him. That's how that character reads to me, because everything felt like a little bit of a joke to him. And I don't know if I don't know if George Miller was like telling him that, or if he just thought
he just kind of adopted that or something. It's a crazy.
Yeah.
Actually.
And if you looked at his face, you don't recognize him. They put so much freaking makeup on his face. He is not the handsome, Chris Hemsworth from the Thor films in this. Like he looks like a different person. If it wasn't for the fact that we have been told that he was Chris Hemsworth, I don't think we would have known.
Yeah, I love the
because he changed his voice too. He's changed his voice.
Yeah, he put another accent. He kind of
he's got
puts another accent in there.
It's a weird, smarmy Australian accent that I'm not sure I can pinpoint what it is.
It was interesting because like you saw him be such a horrible bad guy, but then you also saw him like care, like, and because he saves.
But it felt like a joke. Like he was always joking.
Well, he saves Furiosa. She's in the little cage thing.
Yeah.
And they're
pulling up the cage.
They're pulling up the cage and all the bikes. They're pulling up all the bikes. And he really does. He like goes to and his historian, and he goes to like save him. And I mean, so you saw some stuff where like he cared and he wanted to help. It was just, I don't know. It was quite the interesting character. I really felt like he kind of was the interesting character in this film.
Well, and you get a glimpse of a backstory. Basically, like he said something about his lovelies had died. I'm assuming that he had children.
Well, yeah, because he had this teddy bear
that
he gave her. Was like, hey, this used to belong to my little ones, and and it showed him carrying it around before he gave it to Furiosa, and then he took it back and he had it and he was carrying around the whole film. It belonged to his kids.
There's a pretty long speech that he gives at the end as they're arguing to each other, and it's interesting because I'd have to rewatch the movie to get the full effect, but essentially what I got from it was that once you've been kind of tainted by the wasteland, like despair, you're like each other, and so she's the same as him. Like he spent all of his life avenging the deaths of the loved ones he had, and that's what she was doing. This is a big revenge movie.
Yeah.
She's just avenging her mother's death.
So they're very similar. They're
They're
the same.
and he
Yeah.
was trying to make the point, you're the same as me. You're exactly the same as me. You've been broken by this darkness or whatever. I really like I liked his depiction, and he does have this just evil, but it's like a mocking evil. Like he's just always around there to mock whatever's going on. So
Yeah.
it was it's a very interesting performance, that's for sure. What do you think of Anna Taylor-Joy? Do you think I mean, I like most everything she's in.
I thought she was good. They have her several times where there's just like crap all over her face.
Yeah.
And I still think she's beautiful.
Yeah.
She was beautiful, even with just garbage all over her face.
Well, it's the same thing with Charlize Theron. She's still a beautiful woman,
Yeah.
know, even though they put crap all over her face and, shave her head.
hair. Yeah. Yeah. So
there's like at least 2 or 3 times she shaves her head in this movie. So there's 2 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
This, since we're in spoiler territory, they show Mad Max at some point. Did you notice that with his Inceptor?
Yeah, is after she lost her arm, she's riding her motorcycle, and she rides her motorcycle until it runs out of gas, and she's walking towards the Citadel, and there's just a single clip where there's a guy by his car, and that's it.
And watching her.
I thought they were going to set up that he was going to grab her and save her or something like that.
That's what I thought.
He was going to help out or something.
Is it supposed to imply that he helped her? Like that's
no idea. It doesn't
show the person.
It doesn't do anything. It doesn't tell you nothing. It just, you see a guy by his car and
it's Mad Max's car. It's the Inceptor.
Okay. I mean, it looked like it was because
it's his car from the first 3 movies, and he loses that car in Fury Road.
In Fury Road, he loses it
at the very beginning.
Okay, so I guess.
I mean, I don't know what to think of that, and I honestly, everything I've watched has not mentioned that. Everything I've watched hasn't mentioned that yet. So I'm like, what? Like, was he just trying to imply that he's around this area? Like,
no idea. Maybe just like throwing it out there. Hey, he's around this area somewhere, guys, just so you know.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about that.
Because I mean, Fury Road starts out with him getting caught, basically. And then he and it could be setting up for when he supposedly got caught, because he gets caught, he's imprisoned, and maybe there's a time lapse there. We just don't know how long.
Yeah, we don't know how he was in prison. That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's possible that he got caught right at this time.
This.
So this is the time. Maybe they introduced that, just the shot of him, just so they could introduce the fact that this is the timeline. He gets caught right here.
Yeah.
And then he gets thrown into prison. He gets they figure out what blood type he is, and then are sucking him of blood.
So, what do you think about the save the planet undertones that this movie has? Because the green place has got windmills, and it's got these solar panels, and it's implying that's where we should be getting
panels. I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's solar panels on the roofs and stuff like that. And it's like a hippie commune or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But the truth is that you don't get a lot of power from either one of those energy sources. Especially enough power to run a community. I mean, maybe you could, if you but there's wind farms all over certain states right now, and they don't seem to be doing any better as far as energy. I don't know. Like, this is kind of all. George Miller has always admitted that he was, kind of a save the planet, Greenpeace kind of guy. And That's what so Mad Max Road Warrior, the whole point to that is they're just trying to get they're fighting over a gasoline tanker is what they're doing. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially it's essentially the same thing that they're doing with well, I guess that's not true. Mad Max Fury Road's about helping the wives escape. I don't think that's how the world the more we get into the world stuff, that the more I'm like, I don't think that's how the world's going to end. It's probably going to be more along the lines of like, and we recently talked about this. It's probably going to be more along the lines of Children of Men, with Clive Owen. It's like we're just going to slowly die out. And that's what it feels like right now, because we got the birth gap and all that kind of stuff. But
they do seem to have some undertonings. I know I watched a video where they walked through some of the undertones of Fury Road, where there's like, if you pause it, there's a saying on the wall, men have destroyed the world.
Yeah.
And stuff there, so they're kind of throwing in little messages, subliminal messages.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to watch it again to look and see if there are subliminal messages in this one. But it could be, like you said, they had windmills, and I noticed windmills, but I did not remember seeing solar panels. I'm just appreciative that it was, if they did have woke stuff and save the planet stuff, all that, it was not overt. It was covert. It was
subtle. It was subtle enough
subtle.
that it wasn't in your face.
Subliminal.
Like most everything nowadays is really in your face, and it irritates me most of the time. So, but people are already saying that it's got a lot of woke, and it's like, no, I mean, I think we're oversensitive on both sides. So like the people who are we're oversensitive on the woke. It just goes to the time that we're living in, because everybody's like, well, this is overtly, Republican, and the other side's, this is overtly Democratic or Democrat. And Hollywood's been captured by the liberal left for a long time, so it's not like
and they also may have had enough bombs, enough
lately
flops,
for
that they might be scaling that back a little bit and realizing that they need, if they want to put in their woke agenda, they'll have to do it covertly,
like they used to.
Subliminal. They'll make it subliminal.
Back in the day, that's how they used to do it back in the day. They just that's what they used to do, is that you'd be like, oh, okay, they're putting this in here, okay, fine, and you'd be okay with it. But when it's right in your face, and then you're like, I don't want this in here. I don't need this. I guess before we go, I'd like to I don't feel like the music in this was as good as the music in the first one. It had a lot of do, and it was really cool, and I gotta just mention that cinematography, I would say, is
did
lacking.
They had a different guy than
No, it's the same composer. Yeah, they had a different cinematographer, and it kind of shows.
Yeah.
So the cinematography in Mad Max Fury Road is way better, in my opinion. This had probably had its moments, but yeah, I mean, George Miller for me is hit or miss. Like, 1,000 Years of Longing was weird. Witches of Eastwick was weird. I mean, I liked Happy Feet. So like, he delved a little bit into children's stuff with the Happy Feet movies. The first Happy Feet was pretty good, but for the most part, Mad Max would be, we're good. It would be really interesting to bring Mel Gibson back somehow, like maybe as a father to Tom Hardy's character or something.
Maybe make an appearance somehow. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they would do it and how they would do it tastefully.
Yeah.
But it would be fun.
It would be fun.
And if we're being honest, it would be nostalgia pandering, really.
Yeah. And that's maybe we're too heavily into that nowadays anyway. So we just need new stuff. Let's bring about some new stuff, guys. Like, come on. I mean, there's so they're it's like panning for the old. They're like panning for gold of the old. They've just, there's too many things that they're mining that have already come and gone. I mean, Ghostbusters, Star Wars, and they're not as good. They're just not as good. If you're gonna do a prequel, you want to do it like this, because this is actually good. It's not as good as Fury Road, I would argue, but it's really good. I liked it. It did. There's elements that aren't as, it needed 30 minutes cut out of it.
And I don't know if you felt this way, but and I'll just ask you, did you feel like is a little bit of we get a lot of this where they take an IP and they just basically gender swap and make it
we'll see, that's where
more fitting for our times.
Yeah, that's where the woke, like everybody's claiming this is woke, like Mad Max.
Yeah, because Mad Max used to be about a guy, right?
Yeah.
And now it's these past two really have been kind of, now Mad Max Fury Road was, I guess you could say it was centered around Mad Max.
No, if you really watch it again, it was centered around her.
Okay, so I mean
he's in it, but so I'll use this as an example. So there's a scene in Mad Max where they're in the dark, right? And they're in the war rig stuck in some mud, like a marsh area. It's not, and it's at night, and they shoot out one of their pursuers has got this light on his rig, and they shoot out the light, right? And they're still looking for him. There's like shooting because they can't see him. They're just shooting all over the place. And so Mad Max says, "Wait here," and he leaves. And he's gone for a little bit, and you hear explosions and all this kind of stuff happens, and then he comes back, and he's got like a extra chain or something they needed, and they look at him, and they're like, and he's got blood all over him, and everybody's kind of amazed as what he, like, did he just wipe out these guys, this other, and he did, but they didn't show it, and they chose to do it off screen. So what are they doing by doing that? They're implying.
I thought that was a cool scene.
It was
personally. I thought it was a cool scene because sometimes being left to your imagination, it was kind of the same with Furiosa losing her arm. It was like, yeah. Did she cut it off? Did it break off? Did she, 127 days? Like, did she
do it herself? They imply that she does it herself.
The implications and letting your imagination kind of fill in the dots. I'm cool with that. But yeah,
blanks.
I mean, but finish your thought.
Well, what I was trying to get at is it. Okay, so you're right. That is kind of cool, and it shows that he is a badass. But there's a lot of scenes where they actually show her being a badass, and so she's fighting and all that kind of stuff, and they actually imply that they're equally matched a lot. Mm-hmm. So he's fighting her and she's fighting him, and they show at the very beginning of that movie that they're equally matched, and then they decide not to show when he actually shines as the hero. They don't even show that. They just imply that this happened. Now, is it better or worse? I don't know. But the point is that they've decided, like you said, this is where people get a little touchy about this being a woke movie, is because they're basically taking the hero who originated all this and pulling him out of his own movie franchise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cause it's a Mad Max saga,
but he's not even in
Furiosa
it.
Mad Max saga.
Maybe he
Mad
makes
Max
an
isn't
appearance.
even in this film.
Yeah.
Even in this film.
And,
so anyway, it does kind of seem like, and I online, a lot of guys were getting upset about like, it's a Mad Max saga and he's not in his own show. It's like,
well, and I read
okay, so now
that
it's a Star Wars saga. It's a Star Wars saga, and no one from any of the other
Star Wars
no
movies.
one from the other Star Wars movies is going to be in this film, right? That's a Star Wars saga. So they're just saying Mad Max as the IP. This is a saga. It's not saga. Mad Max.
Well, so I think the studio made them put that on there because I think they just planned on it being Furiosa, and then the studio was like, "No, we got to have some connection to this, or people won't go to it."
Right.
Maybe. So I can imagine that's a studio head going, we got to put some implication that this is the same world. Now, I mean, I'm okay with how it went. And I'm okay with Fury Road too. Fury Road retro, like it seems like when it came out, everybody was all about it, right? So this is what happened. When it came out, it's been almost 10 years. It's a 9-year-old movie.
Yeah.
When he came out, everybody was talking about that movie. Like it was phenomenal. And it's like nothing we'd ever seen, right? And everybody likes seeing stuff that they've never seen before, right? So what happened is this is kind of the beginning of kind of a girl boss morphing into all of our pop culture. So everybody's looking at this going, oh, this is about feminism and this is about women can do anything and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, it's a good action movie. Let's just say that it's a good action movie. Okay. But they wanted their cake and eat it too. So they didn't lay the groundwork, and they've decided to make every woman the boss bitch or boss babe or whatever you want to call them, girl boss in pop culture now. So they're basically following this template and doing a worse job at it. So this is where
taking old IPs
and then
insert
new female character who
leads.
And they're all the leads. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, okay? This has been going on for a long time, but you have to do the work. So a good example is Sarah Connor from the Terminator series and Ellen Ripley from the Alien series. Now, we just recently did an Alien review. Ellen Ripley in the original movie is not a badass. She's scared just like everybody else on that ship. It's Aliens, the second movie where she becomes the badass.
Yeah. It's
the same thing with Sarah Connor. She's not a badass in the first Terminator movie. She's a scared running away from the villain. In the second movie, she's the badass. So there's groundwork already laid for these characters. They don't immediately become the great thing that that we know them as. And this is what's great about this movie is it shows her getting her butt whooped. And it also shows that she's smart because she keeps doing things like at the beginning when she's biting, as a child, she's biting the fuel lines to these bikes so that the bikes keep breaking down. So it shows that she's smart. It doesn't show her kick the guy's ass as a 10-year-old 80-pound child. You know, it doesn't show her kicking their ass. And in today's society, that's what the Marvels is about. It's they're already kicking ass. That's what the Madam Web was. She's already badass and she's kicking everybody's ass. You know, you want a progression of a character, and you want this in your male characters as well. A dominant. This is why Superman's always been very uninteresting for me. Like I like Superman movies, but a lot of the time Superman is if he's invincible, we're usually not interested,
Yeah.
which is why they had to create a weakness for him.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that this movie and Fury Road, they have feminist tendencies, but it's not bad. It's because they have complicated characters who don't always win just based on their feminine energy.
Yeah.
That's what makes them good. They're not like the drivel that we keep getting. Star Wars is shit because they just don't want, they can't lose to a man. They want all these women who are powerful and all that kind of stuff. You know, you got to come up with new interesting ways that they get one over the guy, because if it's down to brawn versus brawn, the dude's gonna win. And one of the best ways to illustrate this, Praetorian Jack, points a gun at him, right? And rather than her get the edge over him, he just breaks the vehicle. She hits her head on the dash and he kicks her out of the rig and drives away. Now that's a perfect example of this guy's tougher than she is. Now, if this same scene was in Madam Web or the Marvels or whatever drivel that we keep getting, it would have been her kicking his ass and kicking him out of the rig. So that's a perfect example of, like, this is still a feminist tale, but it's doing it, which is they're realistic as far as she's not going to get one over this guy because this guy's bigger, stronger. He's been around longer. He knows more than her. That's what's great about that scene, is that but he's also a good person.
But then also being able to learn something from a man. Like,
yes,
you can't, that was the thing with Star Wars with Rey's. Can't learn anything from a man.
yeah,
Not at all. She could learn it from a woman, but she couldn't learn anything from a man.
From man, yeah. That's why they have the scenes where she's being trained by Leia.
Yeah.
And Leia never trained as a Jedi. And it's like,
and she literally doesn't learn a thing from Luke.
She doesn't learn one thing from Luke.
She doesn't learn a thing from Luke.
So what?
So anyway, this is, but, and that's why we're saying, like, feminism is coming into everything and saying that you can't do this, but Furiosa was okay with, like,
yeah,
something from this guy.
She's
so having a strong female character and having a strong male character in their own rights.
Yes. What's wrong with that? Why can't we agree that that is a good thing? If I had to make other than cutting this down a little bit, I would have had a moment where she was really emotional over the loss of Praetorian Jack. Because they don't even show a close-up of him after they've dragged him to death. But he goes out in an honorable way because he doesn't scream. You don't hear him screaming when the dogs start chewing on him. Would have been a nice something, like, to take a memento from him or something that implied that she was grateful to him. Any last thoughts on that, brother?
I liked it. Go see it. I mean, well, I guess we're into spoilers, so we should have said that before.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Is it as good as Fury Road? I don't think so. Mainly because I actually felt like most of those stunt doubles were risking their lives in that one.
Yeah.
This one, I didn't feel that same way. There's a lot of CGI humans in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of tell the way they move that they're not human. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's the future of movies is less dangerous movies, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Check us out on social media, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just look for the Sword in the Skull. If you are listening to this and not watching it, please go to YouTube and like, share, and subscribe. That helps us with our algorithms. And everyone, keep reading, keep listening, keep watching, learn more. We'll see you, brother.
See ya.